class. I will be right back. I'm going to grab my coffee from the other room. Okay. Sorry about that. So, maybe I'll wait. No, I'm going to start. Okay, so today, what we are going to be talking about is something called web scraping. Okay. And so what you're doing if you are web scraping is you are essentially going to a website you are downloading the HTML file for that, or the source code for that website. So websites are written in a language called HTML. That stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And then you do something with it. With that information, okay, with the HTML. So this is how, for example, Amazon knows what is on, or not Amazon, what am I saying? Google, how Google knows what's in all of the websites that are in its search engine is that it basically crawls the web, downloads the HTML, and processes it. So it knows, for example, which websites link to which websites, so it can get the structure. It can pull the text that is on the website and then use that for search results. So it does all kinds of stuff with it. So web scraping is pretty useful, but to understand it, or to understand how to do web scraping, you have to at least know a little bit of HTML. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be giving sort of the briefest possible intro to HTML. Okay. And so it's a pretty simple language. At least at my level of knowledge of it. So you have, for example, what are called elements in HTML. And so some common elements are, for example, you could have the element H1. And so that element is put in angle brackets. Okay? And then you put some text. So H1 stands for header. So a header is like a title for a web page, essentially, of size 1. Okay, so that is the biggest header. But actually there are elements, and I'll just put it, you could put H1 through H6, and that gets progressively smaller. So what you would want to do is you put the header text here. You don't have to put it in quotations or anything like that. And then once the header is done, you put the closing of the element. So you could almost think about an element as like a set of parentheses. Okay, so you're going to put something between the two sides of the element. So we have slash H1. So the closer of that is, you have to put a slash on there. Oh, that's cool. You guys learned web design in 8th grade? I did not know that. All right. So another one that is fairly common is P, which is a paragraph. Okay, so each paragraph would have begin with the P element. Then you would have the text of the paragraph. And then you have the closing. Okay. And probably one of the more important ones that you would need to know about is the A element, which stands for a link. Okay. And so this one is a little bit complicated because in that first angle bracket, you have more information. Okay. So you have A, and then you put href equals, and then in quotations, the URL of the link. Okay. So that's basically where it is going to link to. All right. And then you put the link title, I guess. So you know how when you click a link, it's blue. And so you don't always have a link be the URL of the page. You could, like oftentimes in the assignments, I'll say click here, and then the here will be highlighted in blue. So this would be like here. So what the user actually sees in blue is the link title, and then the href value is the website that it actually links to. And then you have the closing. So this is called, so this extra information that's inside the first set of angle brackets is called an attribute. So an element may or may not have an attribute. So for example, paragraph here does not have an attribute. And then the last one I wanted to tell you about is the image. element, so it's just img, and then you put src equals, and then the URL of the image. You could also put the file path to the image. Okay. And then you could put, width of the image in pixels, height of the image in pixels. Bug, come back here, please. Saw some coyotes out there this morning. Most elements always have a closing like this, but not all of them. So image is one of those where it just, it's just a single set of angle brackets, not two. So again, this stands for image, and it's an element. And then all of this extra stuff that goes in the first set of angle brackets, these are called the attributes of the element. So, Bug! Baby boy! Okay. Oh, baby boy! Baby boy! Oh, baby boy, listen. Baby boy, listen. Don't get eaten by a coyote. Okay. So, let's go ahead and look. So last night I put together a really simple web page for you. Oh, and by the way, there are elements for backgrounds and things like that. In the assignment for this week, I put a link to a tutorial for HTML if you would like to learn more about it. Okay, so I'm going to share my desktop, so I have to minimize some stuff. Give me a second so that, all right, do that before I share my desktop. Okay, so I think this is going to share my desktop. Yes, cool. Okay, so here is my site. Okay, maybe I can view it a little bit bigger. Whoa, too much. Like, come on, just a little bit bigger. Well, whatever. So, what you can see here is that every HTML document starts out with an element that says doc type HTML, and then it has the HTML. So you can see there's an HTML element, and then at the very end of the document there's another HTML element. Okay, so you can see that each element is almost like a set of parentheses. Okay, so I have like the opening parentheses of my HTML document and the closing. Then there is a what's called head, and so this has the head element has. I'm just going to double check that you guys can see. Okay, you guys can see it. Has some so-called metadata for the HTML file, and so in particular I have a title which says Mr. P's website, and so that is what would display up here when you open the website. Then I have body. So here's where the body of the page begins and where the body ends. So then I have a header. The biggest header, it says, this website is all about Mr. P. Then there's a subheader. I know that's a subheader because it says H2, and the text of that is, here's a little bit about me. And then it says, then I start a paragraph. That paragraph ends over here. And it says, my name is Ryan Pettibone, and then it has a link to Wikipedia. I put another attribute in there which says target equals blank. And when you put target equals blank, that opens up the web page in a new tab. So I always think it's annoying when you click a link and it does not open in a new tab. So, and then it says the text of that link is, this is my favorite website. And then I close the link. So notice how we have elements within elements here. I have a link within, so here's the link, and the link is within a paragraph. Then I have another header which says, here's a little bit more about me. And it says, I grew up in Mukilteo, Washington. And then I have another header which says, here are some pictures of my pets. And I don't know why that's there. That shouldn't be there. And then I have 3 images of Hazel, Bug, and Ivan. This source is not a URL. It's actually a file path. And hang on one second, because I just realized that I trashed the 3 images, so they're not on my desktop anymore. So I have to pull them out of the trash. Give me a second. I didn't think about that. Okay. So now I'm going to show my desktop again. Okay, so I just moved these 3 images back onto the desktop. This should say ivan.jpg. I don't know why it doesn't. Okay. So what you'll notice here is that my site.html is on the desktop, and so are all the images. So that's why I have no file path, because they're all in the same folder, because the desktop is a folder. So anyways, I want to display this website. So I'm going to do Control-click. And so this is just a text file. But if you want to interpret this as a website would present it, I can Control-click and open with Google Chrome. And so that's, or whatever your browser is. And so you can see, here it is. It's exactly the same layout as it was in the HTML document. We have the big header. We have 3 smaller headers. We have the 3 images of my 2 dogs sleeping, and then Ivan with stuff on his head. Here's the link. Here are the two paragraphs, and here's a link within the paragraph. So if I click that, it should open Wikipedia. Okay, it does. Cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to web scrape. So that was my introduction to HTML. And so we are going to be using a Java HTML parser that is called Jsoup. Okay, so it's there's a single jar file that you're going to need to include in your class path, unfortunately. So it's just right here in the download section. Okay, and there's a lot of examples along the side of the page, so you can, cookbook contents. So that's basically where I learned how to use Jsoup. But then there's also a reference here, so that you can, like in particular, you can see an index of all the classes and methods and all that stuff. So that could be useful to you. Let me just double check that you're seeing the right stuff. You are. Okay. All right, so here is Genie, and I'll make this a little bit bigger. So first thing, in my build command, I have added to the class path the Jsoup jar. Okay, so exactly the same as the last 3 assignments. So I have a public class called Web Scraping 1, and then I have a couple of strings. All right, and so the first string is a URL to the main page of Wikipedia, and the other string is a path to my site. So what you can do is you can open up a web page either from the internet, or you can open up a web page that's on your own computer. Okay, so this is the URL to Wikipedia, and then this is the file path to my site. Let me explain what this file path means, and to do that I will switch to document webcam. So I have a so if you look at the structure of my computer, I have a folder that's called Ryan, so that's my user folder, because that's my username. And then one of the folders in the Ryan account is my programming folder, where I have all of my what am I trying to say? All of my Java files and Python files and whatever I'm messing around with. And then within that, I have a folder that's called Web Scraping. And that is where Web Scraping 1 .java is. Okay. So if I'm running web scraping 1, it's within the web scraping folder. But my web page, as you can see, is on the desktop. Okay, or as you saw, was on the desktop. So the desktop is another folder that is a subfolder of Orion. Okay, and then there's my site.html. Okay, so if web scraping wants to access my site, I have to give the file path. So you can see that I have to go from web scraping up to programming, okay, up to the Ryan folder, down to the desktop, and then access my site.html. Okay, so it's navigating the file tree. So how do I do that? Well, if I do ... that means go up one folder. It's like hitting the back button on Finder. So if I do ... I'm in web scraping. If I do ... I go to programming, because web scraping is in the programming folder. So that means go up one level in the file tree. And then I need to go up again another level. So I'm going to do / another ... and that puts me in the Ryan folder. And then once I'm in the Ryan folder, I want to go down to the desktop folder. And then within the desktop folder, I want to access my site.html. Okay, so that is the path to go from web scraping 1 to my site. All right. So now let's go back to the desktop. So you can see that's what I put. All right, and then I made a file that opens up that file path. Okay, so I create a file for my web page. Okay, so now we scrape. So this is where we use the Jsoup web scraping, and there's two ways that you can do this. So what the Jsoup API does is it takes the HTML and it puts it into a class that's called document. So this document class holds the HTML of the site. Okay, and so so you can see I have two documents. One of these documents is going to download Wikipedia. The other one is going to have my website. Okay. And so what I do, if you're getting something from the internet, you do jsoup.connect to the URL. So this URL is referencing this string. That's just the URL of Wikipedia. .get. So Jsoup has a method called connect, which is going to connect to that, and then .get will then download it and put it into this document called doc1. If I want to look at a file that's on my own computer, I use jsoup.parse, and then I have the name of the file that is my web page. So the file was called my page, so I'm passing it my page, and then I have to say how is that text encoded. The text is encoded with UTF-8. And then you have to pass a third argument that's just an empty string. So I'm going to put doc1 holds Wikipedia. Not the entirety of Wikipedia, just the front page of it. And then doc2 holds my website. Okay? You'll notice that this is in a try-catch block because you can try to connect to a web page and then it doesn't work. So then there's a class called elements. And the elements class is a list of elements from the page. Okay, so now you can choose to get all of the elements, or you can choose to just get some of them. So for example, I have elements links, and I'm going to do doc2, so that's going to be my website, and then I'm going to select for the element A, which is all the links on my web page, which you might remember there was only one link, and that link was right here, and it said this is my favorite website. Okay, so basically this is going to be a very short list. It's a list of only one element, and then so in the individual, so we have a list of links, but that list of links contains individual elements, which are the links themselves. So notice how I have elements here, and then I have element here. So basically, a member of the elements class is a list of single element, of a single element. Okay? So this is an enhanced for loop. So I'm just iterating over all of the each individual link in the links list. So that's an enhanced for loop, which we talked about. And then I have string link URL. And so I'm going to take that element and I'm going to get what is the attribute of it. So remember, certain elements have attributes. So I have link.attribute, and I'm going to pull the href value. Okay, pull the href value. So this is going to be the URL the link points to. And then I am also going to get the link text. So I have link.text. So you're basically going to pull the title of the link. Okay. And then I'm going to print. So I'm going to say link text links to link URL. And so I've just concatenated some strings together so that it looks like a sentence. Okay. And then I have, you have to do something to catch the exception, and I just print out web scraping failed if it doesn't work. So let's try it out. So I compile it. You can see it's using the modified command with adding the Jsoup jar file to the class path. And then I'm going to run it. Let me just double check on my connection, make sure everyone can see me. So you can see that there was a single link, and that link had a title, this is my favorite website, and it linked to Wikipedia. So it does exactly what we want it to do. Okay? So what if I wanted to do this with Wikipedia? Wikipedia is obviously going to have a lot more links. So let's try Wikipedia. So instead of getting the elements of doc2, I could get, I don't know, doc1 had a Wikipedia. So I'm going to do the same thing for Wikipedia. And so this is going to take longer because it's got a lot more stuff to do. So there's tons and tons and tons of links here. All right. Lots and lots of links. I'm still scrolling. Look at that. So Bangladesh Rifles links to wiki/border guards of Bangladesh. You know, so there's tons and tons of links on Wikipedia. So anyways, we pulled the links. So that works. Cool. What if we wanted to look at all the paragraphs? Well, paragraphs are a different element. So what we would want to do if we wanted to look at, and I'm going to go back to doc2 just for simplicity. Doc2 had 3 paragraphs. Actually, 2 paragraphs. So it has, and they're really just sentences. I grew up in Mukilteo, Washington, and my name is Ryan Pettibone. This is my favorite website. So what if we wanted to select for the paragraph elements? Then I would say P, because P was for paragraph. And I'm going to change this to paragraphs just so that it makes sense. And then I'm going to iterate over the individual paragraphs in the paragraphs. So this is going to have a list of 2 paragraphs. So my for loop is going to iterate over 2 possibilities. I'm going to comment this out, and then I'm going to pull the paragraph text. Okay, so this is going to pull the text of the paragraph. It doesn't make sense. This would throw an error because a paragraph doesn't have an attribute that is href, so that doesn't make sense. So I have to comment that out. And then I have paragraph text, paragraph.text. So I'm pulling the text of the paragraph. And then I'm just going to print it out to a line. So I'm just going to print out paragraph text. So let's try that. So you can see it pulled the paragraphs. My name is Ryan Pettibone. This is my favorite website, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So just one more point. I've imported. You can see that I use the Jsoup. So I import Jsoup. You can see that I use elements. So I import elements. You can see that I use element, so I import element. And then you can see that I use file, so I import file. So basically, like what if I forgot to include this statement, as I forgot to this morning when I was, because I originally was just going to show you how to scrape from a website and not from a file. But I decided I'm going to teach them how to do a file this morning at 7:30. And so I wrote the extra code for getting the file, but I forgot the import statement. So I tried to compile it, and see how it says cannot find symbol. And then it says file. So that basically means it doesn't know what the class file is. And so then I was like, oh yeah, I need to include the import statement for the file class. And then it worked. Okay? So, see if there are any questions. No questions. So that is my lesson for today. I hope you can see the utility of this. If you have, this has lots and lots of uses. If you want to, for example, get the price, there are a lot of websites that will try to get you the best price. Like, I think one is like Priceline.com is for hotels. The way that it does that is it scrapes the web, and it goes to all the hotel websites, and it gets the price of the room. So using web scraping, it's pulling the price of the room. Similarly, if you are running a business and you want to know how often is your business being mentioned on other websites, you could web scrape and look at the text of all the writing within the website and see if your name pops up. So you can look at prices. You can look at, you can download images from websites. I believe that's how Facebook was created, right? If you watch the movie The Social Network, he doesn't ask for permission for these people's photographs. He kind of just like scrapes the web and just downloads all these people's pictures and then puts them up. So it's a pretty cool thing. But you need to understand HTML because you're basically working with raw HTML and trying to get information from that. All right, so that's my lesson for today, and I will see you in the Zoom room.